It's all about cards and coins. Hi, I'm Aaron Jones, and welcome to another episode of Inspire Magic, where I like to inspire you to go out and inspire others to do great magic. And today, on this episode, I wanted to talk about my thoughts on using cards and coins here in Japan. And this thinking goes back to when I was living in Canada, back in my hometown, how I kind of looked at what cards I will use when I perform and what kinds of coins I will use. So let's talk about it, my thoughts on this today's episode of Inspire Magic. First, I want to talk about the cards that I use. Now, over the many years that I have done magic, I've used many different kinds of cards. I have used bicycle cards, tally-ho cards. I went through a tally-ho phase where I only used tally-ho cards, and I've used special design decks, but I'm back to the old bicycle deck of cards. And why do I do this? Why am I using bicycle cards? Well, it goes back to when I was performing in Canada and here in Japan. First, back in Canada, of course, these are the most familiar cards to most regular people. People who have a deck of cards either have a bicycle deck of cards or they have some touristy deck of cards with some branding on the back. But these bicycle cards can be bought anywhere, at the convenience store, toy store, just about anywhere, and they're available and they're cheap, and everybody is familiar with bicycle cards. Tally-ho cards I really like to use, but lay people not really familiar with them, and so they're not familiar with the design, and they kind of may think it's maybe a trick deck of cards. Now, bring it back to here in Japan. Now, in North America, in Canada, and in probably the same United States, most people have cards, as I mentioned. But in Japan, most people don't have cards. And if they do have cards at home, they're probably not a bicycle deck. They are probably a 100 yen shop deck of cards, a very cheap deck of cards. But bicycles aren't available and can be seen at toy stores and novelty shops. So they are available here, and they are, I would say, for magicians, the most available brand of cards that you can use. And this is why I use them, because most people have seen them. Magicians that perform on TV or cards that appear on TV usually are bicycle. And so that's why I like to use bicycle in Japan, because one, I'm used to using them, and they are the most common other than cheap 100 yen shop cards in Japan. And again, unlike North America, most people in Japan don't have a deck of cards sitting around their house, and if they do, they're 100 yen pack, very cheap ones. So I like to keep these. I use these when performing, and they cause no suspicion because they're just regular cards. I perform pretty much with a regular standard bicycle deck of cards. So that's my thinking about that. The cards that I use here in Japan, just regular bicycle rider back. Okay, let's talk about coins. Now, like all magicians, when I started out watching different videos and reading from books, I was using the standard, it seems, is the American 50-cent coin, which I have here. However, I do have these, but I don't often use them here in Japan. And I also stopped using them in Canada. I started using Canadian coins, Canadian $1 loonie coin and the $2 toonie coin when I lived in Canada, because they're familiar. Now, let me talk about the coins that are here in Japan. I'll introduce to you the different kinds of coins. The Japanese coin, of course, is yen. In Japanese pronunciation, it's not yen, though, it's en. And I'll start off with the first one. This is hard to see. This is a 1 yen coin, about worth 1 penny Canadian or US around. That's what it looks like. Very small, very light. The next coin in Japan is a 5 yen coin with a hole in the middle like this. Some good effects you can think of with that one. The next coin is a 10 yen coin. Looks like that. The next one in the series is a 50 yen coin. Also has a hole in the middle like that. It's a 50 yen coin. There, it's hard to see. And then the next coin, lots of coins, is a 100 yen coin like that. A little bit bigger, easy to manipulate, but still fairly small. And the coin that I use the most here in Japan is the 500 yen coin, which is, if I take a 50-cent American piece, it's a little bit smaller. It's a little bit smaller than the 50-cent American coin, but it's a good size to do magic with, and easy to see and familiar to everyone. And of course, there are things like this in Japan as well, so that for your retaining. So I like to use these because they are familiar to the most people. And when I first started performing in Japan, I did use 50-cent coins. However, if you don't speak Japanese, you're not likely to be called on something in Japan. But if you speak the language, they will call you on it. What kind of coin is this? Why are you using this one? Use this one. So in my routining, I now always use 500 yen coins in my routines. And now these days, it's difficult to get any kind of gimmick coin. 500 yen coin is very difficult because a few years ago, the company that made them was stopped by the police. Now, I know in Canada, United States, it's illegal to deface money. And when you make a trick coin, it's defacing the money. Now, I don't know of anybody in Canada or United States ever being arrested for it, but the magic shop that was doing that, one of the magic companies that was doing that in Japan, got raided, and a lot of the trick coins got exposed on Japanese television because they were charged with defacing money because they were making trick coins. So it's very hard to get them if you use them in Japan. Luckily, I have some that I got before that incident happened. However, these are very nice coins to perform with, familiar to everyone, and I don't have to make a strange story or excuse why I'm using a strange coin. There is one routine I do use foreign coins, but in my routine, it is set up that way, so it doesn't cause any kinds of suspicion, and the routine works well. But when I'm doing regular coins across coin work, I mainly work with the Canadian or Japanese 500 yen coin. So that's all I wanted to talk about today. So the idea is to use things that are most familiar with your audience members. So here in Japan, I use the bicycle deck of cards, and I use Japanese coins, mostly the 500 yen coin, because it's the most familiar, most recognizable. So when you do magic with them, I feel it's stronger for them. Anyways, that's all for this episode of Inspire Magic. So go out there and inspire others to do great magic. Until next time, I will see you then. Goodbye.